Let's turn our Bibles to Genesis chapter 1 and keep it at verse 11, 12, and then I'll read verse 29. Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 and 12, and verse 29. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth," and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit whose seed is in itself. And God saw that it was good. And then verse 29. And God said, "See, I have given you the herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed to you, so it shall be for food." And then Genesis chapter 8, verse 22. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, day and night shall not cease. Now, our key scripture was Proverbs chapter 10, verse 22. We're talking about financial and material prosperity. And the first part of it, we saw how it is God's will that you prosper. Prosperity is God's will for you. And in the second part of the teaching, I showed you how God prospers you. There are at least 4 ways that we are looking at how God takes a person who lives in lack and want, and how God prospers him financially and materially. So the first way God prospers a person is mentioned in Proverbs 10:22, where it says, "The blessing of the Lord, it makes one truly rich." So we looked at that word blessing. That word blessing has different shades of meaning. And it means that God has anointed every single person, every believer, every child of God as a supernatural power within him, as an anointing within him that will propel him for success. So that is the first thing we looked at. It is God who prospers a person. God's power that causes a person to be successful and prosperous in life. Then secondly, the second way God prospers people is through the covenant. So I showed you how God made a covenant, and we looked at the covenant of Abraham. And in the covenant, there are many promises there. But one of the things God promised Abraham was financial and material blessing. And I showed you how Jesus died on the cross and shed his blood to meet every need of man, not just the spiritual needs. Every need means including the financial and material needs. That is what we looked at. So God prospers us through the covenant. The covenant is there to prosper you and me. And thirdly is we are looking at God's laws of prosperity or God's laws of increase. Then fourthly, I told you prosperity by association. See, I told you, if you want to be a failure, it's very simple. All you have to do is just associate with failures. You will become a failure. And if you want to be a good for nothing and a useless person, you just hang around with people like that, and that is exactly what you'll become. And this is a law. So these are the 4 ways at least how God prospers you financially and materially. And right now we are looking at the laws of prosperity. So I read to you Genesis chapter 1, verse 11, 12, and 29. And Genesis chapter 8, verse 22. And based on that I told you that every law, whether natural or spiritual, is being ordained and established by God. Every law. Sometimes, people think it is the scientists that invented certain laws. While scientists cannot invent anything. They cannot invent anything. They only discover things which already that was invented and put there by God. So scientists have not invented these laws. These laws were invented, instituted, established by God. They only happen to discover it. And sad thing is, they discover these things very late. If they had to go to the Bible, I think they will learn many things very earlier. Very late they discover things. So all laws, whether they are natural laws or spiritual laws, they have been ordained by God. And every law has been ordained for a purpose. See, I told you, God will never do anything. Even laws, when he creates laws, anything that he creates for a purpose. So even the laws were established for a purpose, to teach something, to convey something. For example, I showed you the law of gravity. The law of gravity is established to teach us something, to convey something. What it teaches, that if you toss up anything, it will come down. So that is what it teaches there. Then we went to Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. And there I showed you another law called the law of work. So I showed you how God created Adam and Eve and he put them in a Garden of Eden there, and that Garden of Eden was filled with abundance. Just 2 people there, but filled with abundance there. And there was no need for them to work in order to eat. They had everything in abundance, but still God told them, or gave them an assignment and commanded them to work. God says, guard the garden, keep it, protect it, till it. This is the assignment that was given to Adam. So why God gave work to Adam? I'm not going to deal with this fully because some people were thinking that I'm going to talk about work elaborately. No, I just had to touch it because of this law. I try to explain that law of work, why God instituted and ordained work for man. But I will take it up on another topic where I will talk only about work. I will start with this, and then I will talk about how you need to work and how God prospers you and blesses you. We will deal with that separately. But here, I just try to show you the reason why God ordained work. I told you, today we always think about work in connection with salary. We think we work for money. That is all. But God never ordained work for money. God never instituted work for money there. The whole purpose why God gave Adam and Eve work is because I showed you, when God creates people, He creates them with tremendous potential, tremendous ability, talents and gifts. So how that potential will manifest, how it will come out? By assigning him work. When he does work, only then he will see his capacity. Only then he will know how much he can handle. Only then he will know what he can achieve. And he will begin to see the talents, the abilities, the potential that is within him. If he doesn't work, he'll never be able to see this giftedness that is within him. And every person is a gifted person. Every single person is a person of potential. And that is why God ordained work. Why work? So that you will discover your talents, you will discover your potential, you will find out your abilities and what you can accomplish in life. And when you work, don't worry about the salary. I told you, God has commanded a blessing upon the work of your hands, that you will have so much that the Bible says there that you will lend to nations. Can you imagine that? See, we are always thinking about salary, but God is thinking about abundance. You know why? You know why God never fixed a salary for Adam and Eve? And even today, He never fixed a salary for you and me? Because He knows salary will never work out. Fixing salary is man's idea. Salary will never be sufficient for you. Am I right or am I wrong? Yes or no? No matter how much they pay you, isn't it? Even if they pay you 1 lakh per month, you cannot say, well, this is quite sufficient. Some people think like that. Sometimes people who get 50,000, they think, well, if I just get another 50,000, I'll be so happy. And all my problems will be solved. I will have some extra money. I can buy this, I can buy that. But when you start getting 1 lakh, sooner or later, you'll find out you'll need 2 lakhs to live. Everybody knows that, isn't it? So you cannot say, well, if I have 1 lakh, that will be sufficient for me. No, my friend. When you get 1 lakh, your whole lifestyle will change. It will be seen outside the way you live. The more you get, the more it will be seen on the outside. You will be totally changed. You will dress differently, you will walk differently, you will talk differently. You will come in a different car, you will live in a different house. It will show. So no matter how much you get, it will not be sufficient. If you get 1 lakh this year, next year that will not be sufficient because everything is going up. Every price is going up. And sooner or later, you will discover that 1 lakh will not be sufficient. See, God knows all these things before. He is the one who created the universe. He was the one who created you and me. He is the one who created the entire system. So He knows everything ahead of time. Amen? He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. He knows the end right from the beginning. He doesn't have to wait till the end to know the end. You and me don't know what the end is. Sometimes we have to wait till the end to know what the end is. But God is not like that. He is all wise. He is all knowing. He knows the end from the very beginning itself. So He knows that salary system will never work for you and me. And that is why He doesn't fix a salary for you. That's why in another place He says, according to your faith, let it be done according to you. So I take that and apply it to your salary also. How much you want to believe? Be open, my friend. Don't fix it. So that is why God didn't fix a salary for man, because God knew that a salary will not be sufficient. Every year he needs to get much more. Well, some people may say, well, that is why we are given an increase. Well, the increase that you give is not enough, because you give 20%, even 30% increase, every other price goes up, and the 30% is still nothing. So it doesn't mean anything to you. So God's intention was not a salary. God's intention was abundance. So that is why He ordained work. When you work, you will see your potential, your abilities, your gifts, your talents being manifested, coming out. And you will excel in that. God's blessing will be upon it. And it says there that you will have so much that you will be able to give for nations there. So that is what we looked at. And then we went further, and we came to 4 things I told you from these scriptures. One is, I told you, it is God who gives seed to the sower. God gives everybody seed. Why? Because He is the one who established this principle. Seed time and harvest time. Sowing and reaping. That means, unless you sow, you will reap. So that is why He ordained it. He ordained seed time and harvest time. So if He ordained seed time and harvest time, then He has to give everybody seeds. Then only they will have seeds to sow. So that is why I told you, it is God who gives seed to the sower. Secondly, every seed has the ability and the power to produce after its own kind. The law still works today. Every seed has the ability and the power to reproduce after its own kind. That means, if you sow a tomato seed, you will have tomatoes. If you sow mango seed, you will have mangoes. You sow apple seed, it will have apples there. It will reproduce after its own kind. Even today, it works. God's laws never fail. Okay, then thirdly, every seed has the power to multiply and reproduce after its kind. Not only reproduce after its own kind, but it multiplies. You sow 1 bag, you get sometimes 500 bags, even 1,000 bags there. Amazing. You get a harvest of what you sow. You sow 1 mango seed, you get a whole mango tree full of mangoes. So much. Fourthly, God has provided different seeds for a different harvest. That's wonderful. He's a God of variety. God has provided different seeds for a different harvest. So what harvest do you want? What do you want in abundance? You want tomatoes abundance? He has provided seed, tomato seed. You want apples in abundance? He has provided apple seed. You want mangoes in abundance? He has provided mango seed there. So He has provided different seeds for a different harvest. So whatever you want a harvest of, God gives you seed. And that is what I'm going to show you. The purpose of why God gives you seed. Okay, so then we went on and looked at, the meaning of the word seed in the natural. I showed you the biological meaning and also the spiritual meaning. In 2 Corinthians chapter 9 verse 6 there, in that old book, when right out from chapter 8, Paul is talking about money there. He's talking about finances there. And right in the middle there, he talks about money, and he compares money to that of seed. He says, when money is sown in the kingdom of God or sown for the gospel work, then it becomes seed. See, because we are talking about sowing and reaping, seed time and harvest time. So you may say, well, all those other scriptures in Genesis, it's talking about, how you can bring forth mangoes and apples and all that. But what about money? Where does it say that money is seed? Where does it say that if you sow money, some people will ask, where does it say that if you sow money, will I reap money? Well, this is a principle, this is a law that has been established by God. And this law will never fail. As long as earth remains, this law will remain. It will never fail. That is what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how to believe in God's laws, how to believe in God's principles, because His laws will never fail. His principles will never fail. So some people will ask, well, if I sow money, will I reap money? That is why Paul in the book of Corinthians, he compares money to seed. Now, just like how you sow mango seed, you will reap mangoes. And if you sow apple seed, you will reap apples. If you take what Paul is saying there, because he goes on again in Galatians and says, whatever a man sows, he will reap. So according to that, it's a general principle. So I would say, even if you sow money, you will reap money. Amen? If you sow money, you will reap money. I mean, this is a general principle. It is a general law. Because some people question, are you trying to say that, if I sow money, I'll reap money? Yes, my friend. When you sow it, in the kingdom of God, when you sow it for the gospel's work, then it becomes seed. And then it begins to, reproduce after its own kind. And it begins to come back to you in a harvest. God takes what you give and He blesses, He multiplies and gives it back to you. See, all these laws and principles that God had ordained and instituted is not for Him. It is for you and me, my friend. God is such a good God. He's a wonderful God. All these laws were established for you and me. The law of seed time and harvest time, for who it is, not for Him. It's for you and me. The law of sowing and reaping, why did God establish it? For us. And all these laws teach one thing. What it teaches no matter how poor you are, it teaches how you can take the little that you have and you can make that little to abound and become abundance. This is what these law teaches here. Because I told you, when you talk about seed, and the first thing that I mentioned here is, it says there, Paul says there, it is God who supplies seed to the sower. I like that word supply. God supplies seed to the sower. That means He keeps giving you seeds. He keeps supplying you seed to the sower. But you need to understand that phrase properly. And we'll deal with that when we come to that verse. We'll deal with that. It says that God supplies seed to the sower. Now, who is a sower? A sower is not a person who once in a way sows in the kingdom of God. Because there are people, where once in a way, once in a blue moon, they say, once in a blue moon, they just, sow in the kingdom of God. That's not a sower. A sower is a person who consistently, who plans, who purposes. He talks about there in 2 Corinthians chapter 9. He talks about how every believer needs to be consistent in sowing. He needs to plan. He needs to purpose. He needs to determine how much is he going to give. And he needs to give cheerfully. The whole, laws and principles of giving, Paul talks about it in 2 Corinthians there. He talks about it there. But the thing is this. All these teachers, how when you take that little, because I told you the only difference is some have more of it, some have less of it. But the thing is, everybody has seeds. Isn't it? God is the one who supplies seeds to the sower. So according to 2 Corinthians chapter 9, if you take it literally, it means that God gives everybody money. Everybody has money? Yes or no? Some of you are keeping quiet. Don't be afraid, I'll not come to your home and ask you for it. Neither will I come and put my hand in your pocket and take it. You don't have to hide anything here. Some places you have to hide everything and, go to church. If you have jewels, you can't put it and go to church there. If you have a good car, you can't take it to the church. Sometimes you have to park it far away and then go to the church. Here you don't have to hide anything. You don't have to get afraid to show off your wealth and all those things. We don't come to your house and ask for it. I don't come and put my hand in your pocket and take it. No, we don't do those things here. So, everybody has money, yes or no? Yes, everybody has money. See, the only thing is, some have more of it, some have less of it. That's all. Some people have more money, some people have less money. So, I would say to both, those who have more and those who have less. And more I would say to those who have less, don't worry about the little that you have. Don't worry about the little that you have. Because there is always a fear in the people who have little. Because what they have is not sufficient even to meet their bills. It's very little. Not even sufficient to meet their bills. And then, if they have to give from that, finished. What they have is not even sufficient to meet the bills, and how can they give? That is a question in their hearts and minds. What will happen to me if I give out of that little? Already it's little. And from that little, if I take and if I give to God and give to the work of God, then what will I have? Totally nothing. Well, that is why God has ordained these laws. Why? To teach us how to take that little and how to sow it in the kingdom of God, and how to get a harvest of whatever you want. Amen? See, this is how little becomes much. God has ordained principles. He has thought through His word how He takes that little and He makes it much and He gives it back to you in abundance there. See, this is how little becomes much. anything, no matter how little it is, when it is placed in the hands of God, see, you need to have a right picture about God. God is not a mean person. The God that we serve and we worship and that I proclaim here is not a mean God. So mean to take away that little that you have and leave you with nothing. Sometimes people think God is like that. They think God is like one of us. People can be mean, but God is not like that, my friend. He is not a person to take away even the little that you have and then leave you with nothing at all. No. You read the scriptures, you read all through the Bible. You cannot show me one place where anybody has given anything to God and went away empty. Never, my friend. Anything that is given into the hands of God, you know what happens? God takes it, He blesses it, He multiplies it, and He gives it to you back 100-fold. Amen? That's what God does, my friend. The law was established, the principle was established for you and me, not for God. Why? So that even if you have little, when you take it and place it in the hands of God, you know what God will do? He will not take it and leave you without anything. No. He will take it and He will bless it and He will multiply it and He will cause it to abound and come back to you in a harvest. That means in abundance, so that you will have much more than what you have. That is why seed time and harvest time, sowing and reaping. See, fear is not from God. Fear is from the devil. The devil is the one who puts fear into you. He is the one who tells you, be careful, you have only little. If you give that, you'll be finished. Fear is from the devil. And you know what fear will do to you? Fear will prevent you from becoming what God wants you to become. A lot of people don't accomplish things because of fear. Sometimes, people when they start business, they are afraid. Because of they are afraid, they cannot accomplish things. Fear will always cripple you, my friend. It will always try to prevent you from being what God wants you to be and accomplish that. Fear is not from God, it's from the devil. So don't worry, even if you have little. Don't think you will lose that also. No. God says when you take that little and you place it and sow it into His kingdom, then He will bless it, He will multiply it, and He will cause it to come back to you in a harvest. See, the whole purpose of giving to God is that He will bless it and give it back to us. What will God do with your money, my friend? God cannot do anything. He owns everything. He doesn't need your money and my money for anything. But the whole purpose of giving is for this. Remember I told you the example of the 5 loaves and 2 fishes? A little lad. He had 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He took it and went and gave it there. And what happened? Did he go home empty? Surely he would not have went home empty. That 5 loaves and 2 fishes, when given into the hands of Jesus, were blessed. He gave thanks, He blessed it, multiplied. So many people ate, and there was balance also. This is what happens when something is placed in the hands of God. So, that is the whole purpose of sowing and reaping. And that is why Paul says that it is God who supplies seed to the sower. That means God keeps giving seed to the person to keep sowing there. Supply, I like that word supply. Now, today, I want to show you the law of the seed, or the principle of the seed. Seeds come in many shapes and sizes. Now, I'm not going to take a lesson on biology, but I always believe that the Bible is, it has everything. It has maths, it has science, it has biology. It is a book of the books, I think. So let's look at the principle of the seed. I want to show you the amazing principle and the power that is within every seed here. So seed comes in many shapes and sizes, and they all have one thing in common. It doesn't matter what shape or what size, whether big or small, round or long. All seeds have one thing in common, and you know what is that? It has within it life. Amazing. If you take an apple seed, it's so small. But within that seed, there is a tremendous ability and potential that God has put within it. I'm going to show you that ability and potential. You cannot imagine that a seed has so much of ability and potential. Eh? People don't understand that. And if God has put so much of ability and power and potential in that seed, then just imagine how much of ability and potential and talent and gift God put within you and me, my friend. Amen? See, when you look at the seed, you must think about yourself. I've spoke already on a series of teaching, but that time we didn't have the video. I just did an audio series on purpose and potential. Every single person has tremendous potential. If God put potential in a tiny seed, in an apple seed, you just take it in your hand and it's so small. But there is tremendous ability, tremendous potential in an apple seed. And my question is, when God created you and me in the image and likeness of God, then how much more potential God has put within every person. And that is how I look at people, my friend. Amen. I never look at people as useless and good for nothing. No. I always look at people with tremendous potential, because I believe that every person that God has created is a person of potential. You may believe it or not, but I believe it. I know my God better than you. God never creates useless people. He never creates good for nothings and fit for nothings. Every person is a person of potential. That is what preaching is about. Preaching is about showing you what is on the inside of you. The problem with Christian people today is they don't understand what is on the inside. They don't know what they have on the inside. That's the main problem. And that is my duty here, to show you what is on the inside, to show you what has happened through salvation, to show you what has happened through this new birth, through this new life. People are ignorant of this. They are born again. They have this potential. They have these abilities. They have everything within it, but they don't know about it. That's a problem. Ignorance. Lack of knowledge of what is on the inside. So seeds come in many shapes and sizes, and irrespective of what shape or size they are, they all have one thing in common, and that is called life. It has life within it. Every seed has life with it, and not only it has life, it also has the ability and the power to reproduce and multiply after its own kind. See, every seed has this ability and power. You know why? Because God has ordained it like that. It's amazing. Every single seed, it has life within it, and it also has the ability to reproduce after its own kind, reproduce and multiply after its own kind. That means if you sow an apple seed, it will not only reproduce an apple, but it will also multiply. It will bring forth many apples. That is the principle of the seed, or the law of the seed. God has ordained every seed like this. Every seed will bring forth after its own kind. It also has the ability to multiply and bring forth after its own kind. And that is why man, with all his knowledge and advancement, he can try to duplicate things, because he is always duplicating things. He can make something look like a seed. He can make something that may pass off as a seed. He can do all those things. He can make a replica seed or a duplicate seed. He can do all those things. But there will always be one thing missing in the man-made commodity, and that is life. Life. He cannot give life to anything. You know why? God is the source of all life. Amen. He is the source of all life, my friend. All life flows from Him. He is the giver of life. Only He can give life. The man, no matter how educated, how much advanced he is, cannot give life. That is why he can make something like a seed. He can duplicate it. It can pass off as a seed. But there will always be one thing missing in the man-made commodity, and that is life. It will never be able to reproduce and multiply after its own kind. But then, even though every seed has this power, it has this thing called life within it, and it also has the ability to reproduce and multiply of its own self, still, I use the word here, given the opportunity. It must be given the opportunity. You just pay attention to that word or note it down, because that is very important. given the opportunity. This word opportunity is very important. Unless that seed is given an opportunity, it will never reproduce and multiply after its own kind. Even though it has life within it, even though it has the potential, it has the ability, it has the power to reproduce and multiply after its own kind, it has to be given the opportunity. Only then it can reproduce and multiply. If it is not given an opportunity, then nothing will happen to the seed. With all the life, with all the power, and with all the ability to multiply and reproduce after its own kind, it will remain in your hand useless, just like that. That is why I use the word given, the opportunity. Every seed, even though it has the power, it must be given the opportunity. I like that, opportunity. Everybody say opportunity. Say it again, opportunity. See, opportunity is what will bring out those talents if you take in work. Why God ordained work? What is work? Work is an opportunity for you to show your skill, your talent, your potential, your ability. Not for money, my friend. That is what work is for. Anytime God opens a way for you to work, He gives you work. What is it? In other words, I would say, I look at it like this. God is giving you an opportunity. What opportunity? To show your potential, to show your giftedness, to show your talented, to show what you can accomplish in life. That is why God gives you work, my friend. Look at it as an opportunity. Don't look at it as a means of just earning money. Amen? That is why I tell you, when you do something, how you need to do it in such a way that will glorify God. I tell you, when you begin to work like that, then don't worry about money. People will come home and they will pay you how much you want. Why? Because they know you're the main person who can do it. Sometimes secular people understand these principles and they take it. I know a builder in Chennai. Not only one or two builders are there in Chennai. Yeah? They follow this principle. They are a little more costly than, the other people, the other builders. Little more costly. Not much, very little more costly. And the reason that they charge you a little extra is because of the way they do things. Yeah? Even their workers, I'm talking about the builder, even the workers that do the building work there, everyone is insured. Can you imagine that? Every single worker of that person is insured. And not only that, everyone has to have a uniform. They cannot have a lungi and work there. Sometimes you'll find some people with lungi, half pants. No, everyone has to have the uniform, company uniform. If they are found without the uniform, they are sent home. Not only that, everyone has to have an helmet for protection. And when they do certain work, they have to have all the protected gear. He supplies them everything. That is why they are a little more expensive. And not only that, when you give the money to them, you can be at peace of mind because they will do the work so wonderfully. That's why they are a little costly. See, we are always concerned about the cost. Oh, they are costly. They are expensive. But when you give the money to them, they will finish the work on time and they will do it in a way that the other people will never do. You can be at peace. They will, whatever they promise you, they will fulfill. That is why they are like that. So people build multi-story apartments and all that. Some of them who are wise, they go to these people only, even though it costs a little more because they know it doesn't matter. In the long run, they will benefit, they will gain. See, that is what work is for. Work is not just for money. It is an opportunity for your talents to come out, for your gifts to come out, to show who you are, what you can do, what you can accomplish. See, when people come to see what you can do and what you can accomplish, and you can do something that nobody else can do, and everybody will come running to you only. Then you can fix your price. You can have the highest price. Doesn't matter. People will still come. Why? Because they know you can do a good job. In every aspect, opportunity is what brings out the potential. You take in sports, in games, in singing, in talent, in anything. Children, even in studies, must be given an opportunity. Unless they are given an opportunity, those talents, those gifts, the abilities, the skills that is within them, it will come out. Only then they will know what they can achieve, what they can accomplish in life. No matter how talented you are, no matter how gifted you are, if you don't have the right opportunity to show forth and to bring out those talents and gifts, then everything will just be buried in you like that, and you will be buried in the grave like that. One preacher wrote like this. He says, many people die rich. You know what he mean? They die with all the talents and the potentials within them, and they die in the grave. So many graves are very rich there. That is why opportunity is very important. So even here, I use the word opportunity. See, the seed, God created the seed. God commanded the seed. He put a law within the seed. There's an inner life system within the seed. And what is the life system? This is it. Every seed has life. No matter what shape or what size it is, it has life. And not only that, every seed has the power, it has the ability to multiply and reproduce after its own kind, unless otherwise given an opportunity. If you don't give that seed an opportunity, then I tell you, it remains useless. It remains useless, my friend. It has to be given the right opportunity. And that is why I say, you can take that seed in your hand, you can, polish it, you can shine it, you can admire it, you can look at it, you can hoard it, you can, store it in your barns, you can do whatever you want. You can accumulate it. Now, whatever you do, if that seed is not given an opportunity, it will never multiply and reproduce after its own kind. And you know what will happen if you just keep storing it and hoarding it there? Ultimately, it will decay. Ultimately, what will happen? It will decay, my friend. Seed has to be given an opportunity. Now, remember, we are not just talking about mango seeds and apple seeds. We're just making the comparisons. We are taking that and, relating it to money. Yeah? Because Paul talks about how money becomes seed when it is sown in the gospel work, when it is given for God and the kingdom of God. So I would say everybody has money, isn't it? Some have more, some have less. But seed, as long as it remains in your hand, is useless. That is why seed has to be sown. That is the whole purpose why God gave seed. See, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 and 12, it is amazing that God not only gives seed there, He also gives fruit there. It says the seed and fruit. Why? You eat the fruit and keep the seed. Just for two people, God gave seed there. Seed is for sowing. In other words, you eat the fruit, you take the seed, and you sow it. Why God ordained this principle of sowing? So that you can get a harvest of whatever you sow. That's the whole purpose there. In the very beginning itself, when in Genesis chapter 1, God ordained this principle. Seed time and harvest time. Every seed will reproduce after its kind and multiply. When this principle was ordained, 6,000 years ago nearly, in Genesis chapter 1, in the very beginning, God ordained this principle. Does it work today? Does it work today? Yes, my friend. That was why I read to you Genesis chapter 8, verse 22. As long as earth remains, seed time and harvest time, sowing and reaping will remain. See, I want to show you how God's laws will not fail. God's principles will not fail. It doesn't matter how many years come and go. As long as earth remains, God has commanded, as long as earth remains, this principle will work. God ordained this principle in the very beginning. Why? Because in the very beginning, God was thinking about abundance even when there were only two people. Can you imagine that? Even when there were only two people, God was thinking about abundance. And that is why God instituted this principle. Why? Because as long as he put the seed in the fruit, you're going to have abundance. In other words, he was saying, whatever you want, a harvest or whatever you want abundance of, all you have to do is take that seed and sow it. And when you sow it, this seed will multiply and reproduce after its own kind. Today, does it work? The principle works. If you sow tomato seeds, what will you get? Tomatoes, isn't it? You sow apple seeds, you will get apple. Even today, the principle works. But the thing is, seed has to be sown. That is the whole purpose why God gives seed. See, that is why Paul says, it is God who gives or supplies seed to the sower and bread to the eater. God supplies seed. Why? Because He is the one who instituted. He is the one who ordained this principle. Unless you sow, you will reap. If you don't sow, you will not reap. Let's say you are a farmer. All through the year, you don't do anything. You don't sow seeds. And then will you go to your field there? And will you kneel down in the center of the field and say, oh God of Abraham, Isaac, Moses and Jacob, the God, the great I am, the miracle working God. I have not sown, it doesn't matter, but you are a God of miracles. I believe for a harvest of apples. By the end of this year, I am going to get 100-fold harvest of apples. Have you seen any farmer like that? No, my friend. He understands the principle very well. If he doesn't sow, forget about the expectation. There is no hope. He will never imagine of an harvest. He's not a fool. He understands certain things. Sometimes we think they are uneducated people. Today everything is changing. I think there are more degree holders in the villages than in cities today. Everything is going vice versa. He understands certain principles. He understands God's laws. He knows that unless he sows, he will reap. Without sowing, he will never imagine, he will never expect, never even hope for an harvest. Hope means future. That means he will never even think that somewhere in the distant future he will get harvest. Never, because he knows he has not sown. But today, our good people are different. They don't do any sowing, but they are believing God for a financial harvest. They are believing God for living, in prosperity. They are praying, they are fasting, they are doing, all kinds of gimmicks. But God says to you, well, that's why I have ordained the principle. Look at the farmer and learn. He says, look at the ant and learn. Look at all these things and learn why all these things are there, so that we may learn from them. So seed, no matter how much power and ability and potential it has to be sown into the soil. Only then it will multiply and reproduce after its own kind and come back to you in abundance and a harvest. As long as it is in your hand and as long as you don't sow it, I tell you, my friend, it may have ability, it may have life, it may have potential to multiply. Nothing will happen if you keep it in your hand and if you shine it and polish it and store it and hoard it. Nothing will happen. The most will happen is it will decay and decompose. That is why I said it must be given an opportunity. The moment you take that seed and give it an opportunity, sow it, and you know what happens the moment you sow it. You take a mango seed and you give that seed an opportunity and you take it and you go and bury it and sow it there. You know what happens? The first thing that happens is roots begin to grow down. Then you'll find a small plant coming out, shooting up. See, after roots going down, there is enough ample power for a small plant to come out. And then that plant begins to grow. And then it becomes into a stalk. And that becomes, thick there. Produces leaves. It grows big there. And then it begins to produce mangoes. The end result is fruit there. When? Unless you give it the opportunity. See, given the opportunity, only then it can bring forth its full potential and ability. If it is not given an opportunity, And if you just keep it in your hand, then no matter how much power and ability it has, it will never multiply and reproduce after its own kind. You will have only that seed in your hand. That is why I use the word given the opportunity. So in the same way, money also must be given the opportunity. I want to show you how God never intended you to live on the seed. Because many people are eating and living on the seed. But I want to show you that God never intended you. God never wanted you to eat the seed or to live on the seed. No. God's plan and purpose for you and me is not to eat the seed or live on the seed, but rather to live on the harvest. The seed is not for eating, my friend. Seed is for sowing. Harvest is for eating. That is why God intended the law of sowing and reaping. Why you sow? To reap a harvest. But the sad thing is, many believers don't understand the principle of the seed. They think that seed is for eating. So the moment they get some money, they just eat everything. Now, if you eat all the seed, you eat away all the seed, and you have nothing to sow, then what harvest will you get? You'll never get harvest of anything, isn't it? You'll never. You have to sow to get a harvest of anything. You want a harvest of mangoes, you have to sow a mango seed. You want a harvest of apples, you have to sow an apple seed. If you eat all the seeds and don't sow anything, you cannot expect, you cannot even hope, you cannot even imagine of an harvest coming forth. So seed is not meant for eating. Seed is meant for sowing. The whole purpose why God supplies seed is not that you will eat everything. This is what sometimes people do. And I know why they do it. Because what they get is very little. Not enough to pay their bills. So how can they think, how can I give? I have so little, how can I give? If I give, it'll hurt me more. And they eat the seed also. But if you eat the seed, then you will never be able to expect a harvest. No hope for a harvest. God never intended you and me to eat the seed or to live on the seed, but rather God intended that we live on the harvest. Amen? See, God is so wonderful. He's so gracious. That is why He gives you seed. Why? Not that you will eat everything. You just eat something and remaining take, and then you sow. Why you sow? Because you need more of it. You need more of it. That is why you sow. When you sow, you can hope, you can expect, and you can look forward to an harvest. This is how a farmer does things. See, a farmer, he sows. And after sowing, he has a great expectation in his heart. He knows for every seed, there is a particular time for harvest. When he sows the seed, he knows some will bring forth harvest in 3 months, some in 6 months, some after a year. But the thing is, the moment he takes seed and the moment he sows, there is an expectation in his heart. There is an hope. He keeps looking forward and he keeps waiting for that time, because he knows that he is bound to reap a harvest of whatever he sowed. You know why? Because he understands God's principles. I tell you, my friend, it is same with you and me also. When you take money and when you sow it in the kingdom of God, it becomes seed. And when you keep sowing, then there is an expectancy. You can hope and you can look forward for a harvest of finances, because this is God's law. It is God's principles. And as long as earth remains, this principle will work. This is how God instituted and ordained and decided how to prosper you and me. This is how He prospers you and me. Not any way and every way. That is why God has ordained these ways. These ways teach us how to prosper. It teaches us how to take the little that we have and trust God and put it in His hands, so that He can take it and He can bless it and He can multiply it and He can give it in abundance to us. Everybody say, seed is not for eating. Seed is for sowing. That's how we need to learn how to look at money, my friend. we need to look at money and think about money as seed. When you start looking at it as seed, your whole life will change. Your whole attitude about money will change. The way you handle money, then the way you do things with money will change. Why? Because now you are looking at it as seed. And every time I tell you, you take seed and you sow it, you will reap a harvest of whatever you sow. That is why God ordained seed time and harvest time, sowing and reaping. Why? Because God wants you to have much more abundance. Don't believe in shortage. Don't believe in lack and want, my friend. Sometimes, people look at the world and they'll say, well, this is poor India, brother. India everywhere, lack and want. As long as you're in India, there'll be lack and want. Who said India is poor? You tell India is poor, nobody will believe it. Today, even the foreigners know that we are not poor. Everybody knows that India is a rich country because every scam that you read there, it's all in only crores only. Even the scams are all big. That tells you how much India is, how much wealthy India is. India is not poor, my friend. So don't believe in lack and want. Some people say, well, there's lack, there's want. No, lack and want is not because of God. Lack and want is because of man. They hoard it, they store it, and they just allow it there to rot and decay and become nothing there. That is why there is lack and want. Some people say, well, but so many people don't have food. Well, that is one side of the coin. On the other side, so much of food is being stored up there and it gets spoiled, it is decaying there. And they just burn it and throw it out there. Why can't you take it and give it to the poor? God never intended lack and want, my friend, for anyone. Amen? Because it is God who's the one who created man and woman. God is the one who gave him the command. What command? Be fruitful, multiply, fill and populate the earth. God said, fill the earth. Let the earth be filled with people like you. And you mean to say God would not have thought about food and water? What will happen if you populate the earth? You will run short of water and food? No, my friend. God already thought about all that. That is why I told He is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and the end. He knows everything. He knows everything, my friend. He knows the end from the beginning. And that is why God in the very beginning instituted these principles. Why? So that no matter how many billions or trillions of people be on planet Earth, there is always much more for every single person. This is how God has planned things. This is God's economy, my friend. Amen? Man's economy is lack and want and shortage, but God's economy is always abundance, overflowing, much more than what you can use, think, or even imagine of. That is how God ordained this universe to be. And I tell you, as long as He's in control, it will be like that. Don't believe in lack and want. That is why I tell people, don't believe the news. Don't live by the news. Live by God's word, my friend. Live by God's word. Live by God's economy. Right from the beginning, this is how God intended man to be, so that he will live in abundance and fullness, never in lack and want and shortage. That is why God has ordained these principles. Why? So that you will have more abundance of whatever you want. That's the principle. Sow, reap. Seed time, harvest time. That is why, it is seed time and harvest time, not just seed time. How would you like it if God only ordained seed time? Let's say God said, all the farmers, you must only keep sowing, but you will not get any returns. Let's say there was a principle like that. Will anybody sow? No, my friend, no farmer will sow. Yeah? That is why it is seed time, harvest time, sowing and reaping. Why? Because whatever you sow will come back in abundance, a harvest for you. Well, I'll just stay with this. Next week we'll continue and I will show you how this tiny little seed, let's take the apple seed. A tiny little apple seed, you have it in your hand. And as long as it is in your hand, you may think it has no life, it has no potential, no ability, it has nothing much. But I'll show you what that one single little apple seed in your hand, when you take that and when you sow it, how that can change your life and transform your life. Just imagine, go back home, imagine, think about it. One apple seed you have. You take that apple seed and you go sow it there. And you'll bring out what? An apple tree. And how many apples will be on that tree? Many, isn't it? It will bring forth many more apples. And just imagine, every apple has seeds in that, much more seeds. And every seed in that apple has the ability and the potential of the same seed to reproduce after its own kind and ability, to multiply and bring forth. That's why one person said, you can take an apple, you can cut it, and you can count the number of seeds that is in an apple. But no scientist, see, they're talking about reaching to the moon and the Mars and this and that and all. They can do everything, but certain things they'll never be able to understand. This is God's multiplication, miracle of multiplication. That is why they cannot understand. This is far beyond their minds. So he said, you can take an apple, you can cut it, and you may be able to count the seeds as a scientist. But you can never tell how many apples are there in one seed. Can any scientist tell that, my friend? No chance. You cannot imagine, you cannot fathom how many apples in one little seed. Think about it. If God ordained a seed like that, then how much more you and me, my friend? Are we of not much more value than the birds and all these things? Man is the highest of God's creation. He is the crown of God's creation. And how much more valuable are we? That is why God created us to live like kings and queens on this earth. Amen? Well, next week we'll continue.